Hey guys, before we get started on breaking down UFC 252, let's thank some of our supporters. First, Retro Grappler. Check out RetroGrappler.com right now. They have some of the best rash guards in all of MMA. I'm talking about those Saturday morning memories, Star Wars, Rugrats, and so much more. Check out right now, RetroGrappler.com. Also, our family at Fusion CBD. Check them out at FusionCBDProducts.com. They got some of the best freeze, the waters. You know I drink the waters daily. Check out our friends at FusionCBDProducts.com and also hit them up on the IG at FusionCBD. All right, let's break down UFC 252. All right, guys, joining us on the UFC 252 recap show, man, the producer of the Vera show, the moneymaker himself, the parlay king, Aaron the Dog. My man, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Dave. It was a roller coaster of a night, I'll say that much, but ended up on a pretty high note once Vera came through,
man,
as you know.
Oh my! I saw you that night. You're eating lobster. I saw everyone was giving you you're drinking wine out of a goblet. It was amazing. It was like the Indiana Jones goblet, and you didn't die. Like you're just drinking out of the wrong cup, and it didn't matter. You're undefeated. You're unbeatable right now, my man.
Oh, I'm definitely beatable. That's the thing. And just like Marlon Vera, I had some losses, had some tumultuous, came through them at the end. So. That's just, just the main event we'll get to, of course. Marlon Vera was my main event.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I don't always look at the position of the card to determine my main event, in my opinion. So, for me, I just saw this as a huge opportunity for Vera throughout. And everything I saw throughout the week only made me more sure of it. And then, I kind of predicted this afterwards with people just saying it's an injury. A fighter did participate in, contributing to that injury. I don't think it was just Sean O'Malley was walking and his leg broke.
Right.
Or his foot broke. And there was really great leg kicks from O'Malley, but the leg kicks from Vera were much more precise and less flashy. So I think they went a little unnoticed compared to O'Malley's big swinging leg kicks that those don't necessarily have the same nerve damage, and I think that played a part in O'Malley's demise, honestly.
Oh yeah, and we talked about it off air, so let's talk about it on air. Chris Weidman defeated Anderson Silva. People can argue to this day the greatest fighter in mixed martial arts history. By checking a leg, right? Like that was the fight. That was the end of the legacy of Anderson, by just checking leg kicks. You mentioned, I thought it was another great point by you, the whole T. Woodley versus Condit fight. Condit tore his ACL, but it was due to, brilliant strikes about Woodley, leg kicks, just dominating for at least 9 minutes of that fight before Condit, tore the ACL. Yeah, anyone right now, and I will go, and I will be so, see-through right here. I picked O'Malley. I bet on O'Malley, but I was 100% wrong. I am man enough and mature enough and big enough to say that. And if people it was so aggravating that night that all the, because there was we'll get into that too, a huge backlash of people just kind of killing O'Malley, which is a little bit maybe I think too far. But then I didn't like the people that were just like, oh, you want just because he hurt himself. No, for one, they're in the hurt business. It's the fight game.
Yes,
you're supposed to get hurt. And it all started, you're right, 100%. And there's been so many great videos through social media and Instagram and all that. It started with those Vera leg kicks, and the Chito Show was born. And I'm happy, man. I'm pumped for him. You did. You were calling Vera all week long. You put your money where your mouth was. Weigh-ins, Instagram, boom. You reached out right away. You're like, Dave? There's something here. I'm telling you, you were calling it all week. You thought O'Malley was so sucked
I called
out.
it as soon as the line opened. As soon as the line opened, and it was not just me falling in love with value. And this is just what I preach from my analyst is you have to trust what you see and you feel ultimately.
Right.
And it's professional capper. But I think I have beyond professional capper results at points by following quote unquote what I'm not supposed to. All week I heard how Vera was the wrong call the entire week. And when I put the bet in, everybody was just, I really did not see many people taking Vera, and, shout out to Sean Shelby and Dana White for giving Vera this opportunity coming off a win over Yadong Song, because that was not a loss. And he nearly won all 3 rounds, definitely won 2 of the rounds against Yadong, and they treated that as a win.
Right.
For Vera. He got a co-main event spot. It was his first time, I believe, on a main card definitely of a pay-per-view. The weigh-in, I remember, I know I bothered you a lot talking about Vera, and I want to talk about the rest of the card too, because there's definitely, I have tons of thoughts, but obviously, when you told me, a little behind the scenes before the fight, you're like, Aaron, you're going to be on Monday if Vera wins. And I told you less than a second later, I said Monday morning.
Yep.
And the only one more confident than me, I think, was Chito Vera. Go watch those weigh-ins, and weigh-in reads matter. And I think more and more people are realizing that. Do not be afraid to change your mind. I'll apply that to a couple other fights as we talk about them. But I can't tell you how many times my first instinct when I've looked at a card or a fight has been one way, and then it's changed 6 or 7 times.
Right.
You have to be willing to shift based on the information as it comes in. And the most accurate information is those weigh-ins. And you look at Sean O'Malley, I do think he looks sucked out. I do think that his time at 135 is going to be very limited. Especially with how he continues to add on mass and everything. And then I'm not sure. I think he's a 140 fighter, frankly, because at 145 he's going to get eaten alive, I think. But that's for another day in podcast. But with Vera, he gets up on the scale. He, first of all, was not sucked out. He had a really good weight cut, you could tell. And he's smiling, but it wasn't an arrogant or uncomfortable or forced smile. It was a genuine smile. He was ready to go.
Right.
And that's a plus 245 dog, Dave.
Yeah. No, Aaron, man, I've been, the Fight Bananas podcast is on fire. Over 290 episodes. And I talked to so many guys, girls, fighters, amateur, regional, to the main event of the UFC. And I talk to them a lot on air about it. And God knowing I talk a ton off air about it. 97% of the sport is all mental, is all where your head is at for the cut. It's all for the month leading up to it, the day of, how good their haircut was, how their girlfriend's been treating them. That's literally everything. Everyone trains at these mega amazing gyms or in their one-on-one kind of gym based on themselves. Everyone gets great training. It's 2020. They see everything. Everything's online. I can go get 7-minute abs on YouTube for free now. It's just, it is what it is. Everything is out there. You're so right. Saturday morning, I love the embedded shows that the UFC do. I absolutely love them. And I don't watch them when they come out. Every single time I wait to Saturday morning, and I probably should change it because I talk into a microphone about mixed martial arts for a living, but I just love watching all 7 of them in a row Saturday morning by myself, and I start to kind of get locked into the event, right? And all these embedded shows, for one, I didn't even know Vera was in the co-main event. I think he was on it one time. It was pretty disrespectful for one. And 2, the whole Sean O'Malley, everything was him about Twitch, playing video games, his social media following, let me dye my hair a certain way. And I'm like, God dang it. I don't care how talented you are. Conor McGregor, we'll see where it comes if they do fight again. The whole Nurmagomedov fight, he said he was drinking too much. He wasn't into it. I don't care how great you are, that your opponent is damn good. And if you're not 100% locked into the fight, scouting your opponent, mentally ready for war, you're going to lose. Yep. And especially to a guy like you said, I listened to the Inside the Distance podcast with you and GK. you just kept on saying, the mentality, the dog, all these, buzzwords. And I'm like, I didn't see it. And then Saturday morning I saw it, and it was too late. I already had my bet in, and I kind of made the mistake there. I wish I could have changed it. But, yeah, I have put so much respect on Vera's name for the last 36 hours, and this is one reason why I wanted this pod. We'll talk about the great trilogy of the two greatest heavyweights maybe ever, but I'm here to put respect on Chito's name. That's what I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, if I have my, ways about it, I'm going to find a way to reach out to him, because with the type of people who we've had on Inside the Distance and overall on Fight Bananas as guests, he fits right in there with the Jillian Robertsons. He fits right in there with the Brendan Allens. He is a dog. He finishes. And I like fighters with those losses on their record. I don't get scared by losses, and Vera loses every first round he's been in the UFC nearly. And a lot of people point to that as a huge negative. I understand the thinking, but the one thing that you can't replicate in gyms, the one thing you can't replicate is that experience of coming back from when someone is giving their 100% to take you out, and they don't, and you take them out.
Right.
After taking, and he didn't do it just one time like Lando Venata did against Tony Ferguson. He does this every time. And it's just, I think that eventually that becomes unnecessary as you get better and into the higher echelon. You can't do that. I get it. But adversity, having those losses. Marlon Vera has lost to guys like Davey Grant. He has lost, to not great guys.
Right.
But he also has never been put away by guys like John Lineker. He's not, and he's still, no one knows his name. I just got UFC 4. Of course he's not in the game. It's just like, he was coming off 5 straight finishes, essentially 6 straight wins. This is his 7th straight win, and this is a legitimate finish.
Oh, yeah. And we'll kind of...
I'm thrilled, and the money on top of it is very, very satisfying, but I'm telling you that it's about knowing how much, these guys put into it, and just going back to your final point about these fighters doing too much, I fade it over and over again when they start telling me, we've seen it with Tyron Woodley. We've seen it with Daniel Cormier. We've seen it with O'Malley now. These guys who want to become these, I understand, because they realize the game is short, but I think there's a certain level where ignorance is bliss in them in that game, and not thinking about the exit, what you're going to do afterwards, is kind of required to really be all in.
Right.
Chito's not thinking about hosting a podcast or going on Twitch and playing Super Smash Brothers or something.
Right. No, 100%.
And I'm a cannabis user, but he's not just out there, not just using cannabis, but really indulging in the stoner lifestyle, whether that's just for show or it actually is what he's doing. Either way, it's taken away from the mental game.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not saying that's why he lost here on, but also O'Malley has only been a hammer his entire career. When he was the nail for a short amount of time, he should have lost to Camp. And this just reminded me, I was on Brunson a couple weeks ago too. I'm not saying this is the same thing, but there's shades here where these guys who've never been in that spotlight, that main event or co-main event spotlight of a huge pay-per-view card, there's a certain, there's a lot of these times where those guys are going to come through and be successful, but you got to read the mentalities. Brunson had been away from his family for over a month as a family man. You know what that kind of sacrifice would mean.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And while Shabazian has having Ronda Rousey come on, and he's still with Edmund Targaryen or whatever his name is, and it's just that worked 6-7 years ago in the UFC. That doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
We've seen what this gym does to elite UFC athletes. Look at Travis Brown. Where is Travis Brown? Exactly. It's just over. So these are all the things I think about, and the reason these are my bets, and everything like that. But that's my Chito gospel. I will keep. I've been expelling the Chito gospel for a long time here. Finally, he's defeated a guy who's quote unquote good. Since I guess if you're in the UFC, you're not good. because I love hearing that too. Yeah. Everybody that Chito finished, not good after. So it's like, okay, well, but I mean, O'Malley is now there's the injury excuse. And I like these excuses because I'm fine getting Chito at a dog price again in his next fight.
Right. Okay, so two last things with this, and then I had a perfect, beautiful transition into Stipe, but I really want to hit on this, just two more turns. One is with O'Malley, you said it, and I thought the same thing. I don't know if you remember it too. After Holloway's to Volkanovski, I threw it out there, and hey, I might be right. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Check the Paige Van Zandt timeline. But anyways, I put it out there that I thought Max Holloway's fight against Volkanovski will be his last featherweight fight ever. And this fight going into it, I wish I would have done it because I think I would have nailed it. And sometimes that courage button of hitting that send, I just didn't do it. I thought this fight was going to be O'Malley's last bantamweight fight ever. I just think that, man, it's really much like Conor, but Conor, ran to that title super, super quick and then got it and then moved up. God, he looks so sucked out, and I don't think he's, he did make a lot of money, and he is making a lot of money through sponsorships sooner or later, and he's so uber young. His frame's getting bigger. Dude, I used to eat a Big Mac and then be able to jog. I eat a Big Mac and then I need a nap. It happens to an evolution of a body. I was like, man, I wasn't sure, and I really thought this was going to be a dog of a fight, so I thought he was going to kind of cardio out and maybe win the first round or two, and then Vera win round 3, and then O'Malley probably would have won the fight, via decision, but then it was going to be out there like, man, he needs to gain that 10 pounds and move up. So I just, one, do you think O'Malley, when is he going to move up? And then two, my last one is, what is next for Chito? Throw out a couple different names. I would see he's in another co-main event right away. Who do you think that's going to be against?
Oh, man. So first, O'Malley, he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. They don't exactly know what his injury is yet.
Right.
But either way, being out, then rehabbing, and, particularly his rehab will be strength and conditioning. He's going to continue to put on that muscle and that meat. He's done at 135, in my opinion.
Agree.
I think 145, for one, he can move up and slow down this progress because I don't think he's as far along as people think after putting away Eddie Wineland. I just don't. I think that Eddie Wineland was put on a tee there to be KO'd. And I'm not sure how much, so I think like moving up a weight class, they'll move him to some lower caliber fighters again, have a chance to kind of retool his game a little bit and everything. For Chito, man, it's hard. I'm on my phone, so I can't pull up the rankings here. But it's got to be somebody ranked at this point. Trying to think of a name. Do you have any names? Throw out a few names, and I'll kind of tell you what I'm thinking on them, I guess, because I'm having trouble really. Honestly, I just want him back in there before the year's end.
Yeah, I think you will. You kind of ride a hot horse, and I think he's definitely a hot horse. And I think UFC is going to get him one more fight. I think they're going to even get him a fight that they kind of feel pretty good on his side. I'm with you with the names too. I didn't have one in mind. I know, what jumps off the top. I don't know why, and I know they're matched up is Sandhagen, right? And I know it's Sandhagen versus Morales, right? I think, and people are like, really that high? Yeah, I think he's fighting a top 7 guy. I do. I don't know why. I think he's in that 6 through 10. And I think he's going to get someone that the dog of Chito will probably get the job done. And it's how the UFC. Sometimes I think they overreact. They almost Chito O'Malley. He's going to take a 2-week notice against Sandhagen. If he wins that, he's going to be thrust into a title or a title contender fight. Like, that's just how they usually roll. Like, and there's pros to it, there's cons to it. Sometimes the rankings don't mean that much. But I can see him. Even the loser of that. I think he's right there. I think he's in that 5 through 8 range.
Yeah. I would love to see that. I think there's a couple rematch. I mean, I think that Chito is one of these guys who, if he does end up in this position where Marias or Sandhagen pulls out and he comes in at a few weeks' notice and then wins, I do think he has the kind of experience and, whatnot to actually really take advantage of that kind of rocket to the top.
Right.
Because I was so disappointed after his fight with Yadong Song. Because for one, I bet on him, but I mean, I felt like the UFC was just, that was a night where there was like 4 or 5 robberies.
Yeah. Edson Barbosa.
It was a terrible, and I don't use the word robbery lightly, like legit robberies. And so I was like, okay, Chito versus Yadong Song at 145. This is the kind of fight that Dana White isn't even aware happened or is an egregious robbery, because there's all these other ones getting the Twitter. And I'm like, it's just going to get swept under the rug here. And, Yadong Song's the younger prospect anyways. It's probably the guy they wanted to advance and whatnot. And I was just glad not to see the case whether or not I really don't think they could have honestly thought they were bringing Chito in to be sacrificed in the first round. He's never been finished by some incredibly hard hitters.
Right. And Aaron, I think they brought him in there. I think they wanted to see O'Malley. I think they wanted to see, hey, everyone keeps on, there's so many parallels to Conor, and I keep on bringing it up, and I swear we're getting into Stipe soon, guys. I cannot wait. But with Conor, I think they threw that Dustin Poirier matchup, if you remember, on the way up. I think they wanted to see Conor in a 15-minute dogfight and to see, hey, where he's at. He's got the talk, he's got the walk, but if he can go through this, we feel comfortable with putting him into those co-mains and the main events right away and give him the title shot. I think this is what that was. Conor hit the top of the ear of Dustin, and he went down in a minute. And that's when it was just like, boom.
And hit the tip of the chin against Aldo. I mean, he kept, there was a really legitimate way that O'Malley could have kept, kind of pulling the, McGregor and hitting the button in each fight. And then we don't really know who he is until he gets in that dogfight against, these really, legit guys like Nate. And then it's like all of a sudden the first time he's kind of pushed in the UFC, we see a little bit of who he is. And, that is, again, we've gotten to see who Vera is over and over again, getting beat up, nearly finished in first rounds. But he comes back and looks like in the second round like nothing's happened.
Right.
I mean, he is a dog. He is the embodiment of the type of guys I love to root for.
Right. All right. Smooth transition I had. You were talking about, betting on guys, that it's all heart. We say that all the time. You're definitely the heart of the Inside the Distance podcast. And, sometimes there's just an eye test, a feel. There's just an it thing. And all week long, or for the last 2-3 weeks, I bet on Stipe as soon as it was announced. I hit it when he was at the plus for literally a day or two. He was plus 105. I hit it then. And then Saturday night, I threw another one on it. Even I got, I love it. I love when I get that put back from Facebook when I made my picks and I had Stipe and a ton of DC love came through. And I love me some DC. So this isn't an anti-DC. But back to the mentality, back to the dog. The same thing with Embeddeds. And I don't know if you watched it. It was all about Daniel Cormier and his 7.5-month, pregnant wife and him golfing. All I saw was he was buying golf clubs, hitting golf clubs. He was in the backyard, jumping in the pool, then hitting golf balls. I was like, what? No. You're not going to defeat Stipe Miocic on a golf regimen. This is not going to happen. And I love Stipe so much on it, and I couldn't believe that he was, at the end of the day, was a pick'em. The Vegas is going to make their vig on it. It was a pick'em fight, and I couldn't believe that Stipe Miocic, look at his last 10 fights, that he was a pick'em. I was flabbergasted. The girls will have new shoes, both girls, not even one girl. I'm buying both twins new shoes. I was very happy with Stipe and his performance, and I thought it was a great fight. I love the fight. You can argue he won 4, and I thought he did, and I'm kind of on that side of the argument. I can definitely see 3-2 Stipe, but I thought it was a great, great fight. And we have end still with Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, I love this fight. I thought this was a great fight. And there's no doubt about it that Stipe is the GOAT at heavyweight.
Ooh, I lost Aaron. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so no doubt Stipe is definitely the GOAT for me at heavyweight after this fight. I really found it to be a really, really great fight. And this is a fight that, again, if you just view it from I can understand why the odds were where they were. But if you just view this from a purely numbers perspective, you're like, okay, DC's won 4 of the 5 rounds other than when he got knocked out. He knocked him out. He's going to wrestle, all these things. And those were initially kind of where I was leaning. And then, like you, I watched these embeddeds. I listened to Daniel Cormier, and I think we've had a lot of indications that Daniel Cormier is not fully in the game anymore.
Right.
I mean, obviously his announcing, he's always announcing. The new UFC game just came out. He's the announcer in that. We've heard Rogan talk about how many hours that kind of stuff takes. He's going on ESPN and playing the video game with celebrities. He's talking to Lil Wayne. I don't know if you noticed the Twitter feed during the whole main event, but every single one was for Daniel Cormier.
Yes.
Until the very end.
Yes. No, we saw that as well. I hit on that. I was like, and I was sitting with one of my buddies. Dude, it was, okay. Pull the curtain. This is going deep. My house got electrocuted by lightning. True story. Thor. The kids thought, oh my God, Thor jumped on the house. And we lost all the TVs. We lost all the dishwashers. It was crazy. But I was super lucky. One of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me, I won't even say his name, helped us out and bought us a TV. It was the biggest TV I've ever had in my life. We've had nice things at the house, but I've never had a TV like this. It was a brand new 75-inch, 4K, ultra. It was just, bells and whistles. It literally talks to you. I wake up, I get my iced coffee in the morning. It says, good morning, David. So the TV is amazing. But I haven't put it on the wall yet. It's me and the wife. We're doing the COVID thing. We got the kids, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted one of my buddies. We're going to watch the fights. I was like, whoa, if you come 30 minutes earlier, we could put this big screen on TV. On the wall. And he's like, let's do it. So he comes over, we put the TV, we're watching the fights, and that little Twitter thing is huge on a 75-inch TV. Yeah. And he mentions it to me because I'm really zoned into the fight. And sometimes,
of course,
when friends and buddies come over, you watch the fights, I'm kind of the quiet guy. I'm almost taking mental notes of watching the fights. I'm really, really intrigued, and I'm seeing little things that other people, I think, don't see. Definitely. And he goes, Dave, you see there in the left corner? I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, the Twitter thing, everyone thinks DC's up, and everyone's go DC, rooting for DC, all DC. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I haven't noticed it. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, it's 9 and 10. I'm like, ooh, I felt for a second, I was like, I hope this is not the judges, too. They're seeing a fight.
No, yeah. And it's not. It really isn't. I mean, the judges are very separate from the UFC marketing machine.
Right.
So, I was having the same thoughts, though.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was really crazy. It was just Lil Wayne, everybody is just go DC, 2-2 DC.
Yeah.
I'm just even when they were saying it was tied, they were saying in favor of DC. It was and then finally at the end, they put up LeBron James, as it was pretty clear that I think, Stipe had won. And it was so, Joe Rogan acknowledged it after the fights. He's like, it's really hard to announce for a friend. I think they did the best they could. I had to mute the commentary after the first round. I was just all set with the commentary. It wasn't going to add anything to the fight for me. And as an emotional, heartfelt guy, I was getting distracted by that. So I actually muted the commentary and just watched the fight on mute. The first time.
Wow.
The first time through. It just, because I did start thinking, are the judges, are they hearing who's getting, are they taking into account that this is their coworker who they all like? I mean, and I was just like, this isn't where I need to be as I'm watching the fight.
Right.
I do wish there was an option to, pick up broadcast without the commentary and just be able to hear it. But, I get it. But again, this is one that I changed course as the week went. I was on Stipe originally because I really wasn't a big fan of DC calling out Brock Lesnar and pretending Stipe didn't exist. I felt like that psychologically truly revealed to me how into this game DC was. And then, I watched the fights back and I was like, well, there's a real game plan here for DC. But then I was like, who is he preparing with?
Right.
And, everything like that. It's like, if he is preparing with Kane, when they showed Kane, there was a Instagram picture DC posted of him training with Kane the week of the fights from implying he was prepping with him. And if you look at this picture, Kane's knees are wrapped in mummy, wrapped like a mummy. And I'm like, if you're preparing with that is not Stipe, who took his time, made sure his eye was fully healed, did not let anybody rush him back into it. And I really respect Stipe for that. I think Stipe is ready to be a little more active moving forward and not have the same fight for the last 3 years he's had to dedicate his life to, basically.
Right. And, man, I love that you said a lot of that right there. I felt that, too. It's, in anything, if, the girl analogy, right? There's the pretty girl at the bar. Sometimes you don't go and walk up to her because you're afraid to be turned down, or you're afraid the word defeat. If DC knew that he can handle Stipe, and Stipe 2 years ago with the most consecutive heavyweight title defenses, the name was still hot. They could have done the rematch pretty much right away. Probably got mega money. That's when back in the day when fans used to watch MMA fights live at venues. They could have sold the house out. And he wanted, let's just be blunt about it, he wanted no part of that. No part of that. He wanted Lesnar. And then Derek Lewis, who I like, and I cannot wait for the him versus Blades fight. But for Derek Lewis to be losing for 14 minutes to Volkan and then get the last minute there, say something funny, and then Joe Rogan pushed him to the moon, I was like, this is unbelievable. I could not believe. And then the same thing, even in the fight, the second fight versus Stipe, he was winning the rounds, and I just felt like it was more of a Stipe wasn't performing to the top of his ability. Stipe's one of those guys, if he's on an A-plus level right now in the heavyweight division, no one's beating him. Let's see what Francis does, because I feel the same way with Francis. He's on this 4-fight, under a minute knockout win streak he's on. If he brings out his A-plus game versus Stipe, it could be new. But let's see. That's a whole other podcast for another time. But I was so happy for Stipe. I thought the fight was great. I did like in a weird way that it did go the distance because both men finished each other in the other first two. And this was like it's over. Like the cherries on top. We saw 25 minutes of great heavyweight action. Stipe, I think, easily won the fight. It was a great fight. It was a close fight, but Stipe is the winner. He's the winner of the trilogy. He's the winner of the heavyweights. He is the greatest heavyweight in UFC history.
Absolutely, bar none. Yeah, I love that it went to decision. Decisions tell you so much more who the better fighter is than a quick knockout.
Yeah, I think so too.
The better fighter wins the decision fights. That's why I look at Kane versus JDS.
Ooh, I like that. Good one. Yeah, we are running. Okay, I am getting the cue. Probably last minute, my man. Okay, so Vera, Stipe, I think we hit on him. Is there someone else on the card last minute, UFC 252, you walked away, you're like, okay, I like this. He's going to go here or she's going to go here. Is there something that jumped at you lastly on UFC 252?
Honestly, not from a positive perspective. I really like Kai Kamaka, honestly. I really, both those guys fought their hearts out. They deserve fight of the night. So Kai Kamaka, for both those guys to perform like that on such short notice and be in such great shape, that is a great sign moving forward. And Kai fought through a ton of adversity in that fight, and showed me a lot. Also, lesson learned on Herbert Burns. I had faded him in his first two fights. He had quick knockouts against, I think, pretty favorable matchups. And then this was one I was again, just like, okay, I'll finally trust him, put him in a bunch of parlays at minus 300, and I almost had a negative night as a result if it wasn't for Vera and Stipe. So learned my lesson with Herbert Burns.
Agree. And you ready for this one? And we'll close it with this.
Yeah.
I really thought that he was now seeing the whole story and seeing him in the octagon now for 25 full minutes. I don't know. I don't think some of these younger brothers, if it's the Nagirs, there's a couple other ones that really jumped at me that night. I'm like, I don't know. I think,
you're saying he's the Dan Lozon of the Burnses.
Yes. There you go.
And again, the guys he beat, they were just perfect matchups and quick knockouts. You don't find out anything from those. And like the guy who last, and then I know you got to go. The guy who really taught me this lesson, he's fighting coming up, and he's a favorite right now. So here's a special little dog to get right now. Open St. Preux versus Alonzo Menafield on short notice. Alonzo Menafield is a favorite right now. Just saying.
Wow.
Just saying. I already locked up Open St. Preux at plus 120, and I put a heavy wager on it. That's insanity to me.
There you go. That's this weekend. I cannot wait.
Short notice Menafield is a favorite right now. If he doesn't put away OSP in the first round, there's no way he gets the decision. No way. He has no ability to.
Right. No, I'm with you. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Dude, Aaron, I can talk to you for hours.
I can, too. I know you got to go.
Thank
you for having me on. I appreciate it. This was the Chito Gospel. Thank you for joining me.
The Chito Gospel, the producer of the Chito Show, is going to be on VH1 very, very soon. My man, Aaron the Dog. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, brother.
All right, man.
Peace.